So today's lesson is the ability to identify a function and talk about these functions on tables and mappings and graphs. So we're going to look at it in different ways. So a function is basically for every input, there's an output. Okay? So I kind of think of a function like if you ever went to La Casana and they have those little machines at the front when you were a kid, what do you put in? That's your input. You turn the knob and what happens? You get like a toy or a piece of candy or something. That's your output. So that's a function. For every input, there's an output. So a function consists of a set called the domain. And the domain is your input. And a set called the range, which is your output. So you might hear me say domain, you might hear me say input, they're the exact same thing. And again, range and output are the same thing. The domain is the input, which are your x's, also known as your independent variable. And you should have learned about independent and dependent variables last year, yes or no? Yes. Some in science and some in math. We'll go over it again though. The range is your output, which is your y's, and it is the dependent variable. You'll hear about this in science as well, and you've probably been hearing about dependent and independent variables probably since maybe 6th grade math. Okay, before we go any further, the main thing you missed in 8th grade math is that to identify a function, all you do is look to see that the x's do not repeat. Okay, did y'all hear that? To identify a function, you look at it and you make sure the x's don't repeat. Did I say anything about the y's? Do I care about the y's? No, the y's can repeat, the x's cannot. So just kind of right up here, put a star and put x's cannot repeat. Okay, to help you understand what a function is, what is an independent and dependent variable, I'm going to use an example on purchasing gallons of gas. Okay, and once I show you this, it's going to make sense to you. So if I have gallons of gas, I'm going to have to do what to get it? I'm going to have to pay money. Okay, so which one of these do you think is dependent on the other?
The gallons is dependent on the money.
So when I go pump gas, what do I do first? I pump the gas, and how much it costs depends on how many gallons I put in my tank. Does that make sense? So this is the dependent variable. It's the y. It depends on the gallons. My cost depends on how many gallons I purchase. So my y is my dependent variable. And we learned that the dependent variable is also known as the output, and that's also known as the range. So I could call this any one of those vocabulary words, and you should know what it means. Yes? So if the money is dependent, then the gallons is independent. That's going to be your X, your independent variable. Also known as your input, also known as the domain. So you just learned 6 new vocabulary words, but 3 of them mean the same thing. Okay, so let's say I got 10 gallons of gas, and let's say gas costs $3 a gallon. So how much am I spending? $30. Okay, let's say I got 12 gallons of gas. How much am I spending at $3 a gallon? 36. Okay, let's say I got 13 gallons, 39, 14 gallons, 42, and let's say 50. I got 50 gallons. That's $150. If you are asked to identify the domain, all they're asking you to do is label what are the X's in this particular situation. Well, my X's would be 10. What else? 12. What else? 13, 14, and 50. Because that's what we listed. So that is my domain. If you're asked to list the range, you're listing it what they give you. So my range would be 30, 36, 39, 42, and 150. Okay, so let's go over what we've learned. A function is, for every input, there can only be one output. Meaning, if I put in 10 gallons of gas, it can't cost me $30 and you pull up right behind me and you get 10 gallons and it charged you 50. That wouldn't be working correctly. The function would be broke. Does that make sense? So for every input, there can only be one output. Make sense? Yes or no? Okay, so this is a function because every X is a different number. They don't repeat themselves. But again, we don't care about the Y's. All right, who can tell me the rule that was used for this function? How did we get from X to Y? Times 3. We multiplied times 3. Could you write an equation that tells me how you solved for Y? Y equals. What did we do to solve for Y? Okay, tell me. You're correct. It is X times 3, but how would we write that algebraically? Would we put X times 3? Or would we put 3X? So that's just the correct way to write an equation. We would put 3X. Okay, the next thing we're going to learn is a mapping diagram, and I know it's kind of dark, but y'all guys can see it decently, yes? Okay, a mapping diagram is just another fancy way of making a table. So basically, they're saying that these are coordinates that fall on a graph, and so this coordinate is 1, comma what? This is 1, 0. What's this one? 2, 1. And what's this one? 3, 2. And what's this one? 4, 2. And so it says this is a mapping diagram. Is it a function? Well, what did we learn to say what is a function? The X's cannot repeat. Do we care about the Y's? No. So I only look at these X's right here. And I almost kind of want to cover these Y's up. And I want to say, do the X's repeat? No. So is it a function? Yes, it is. So this one is a function. Now, if you don't want to have to write the coordinates out, one way that I do it is I cover the output column over here, and I say, is there only one line coming out of each of these inputs? And there is only one line, so it's a function. Make sure you're covering this, because if you see like this 2 has 2 lines going to it, you might get confused. But again, do we care about the y's? No. All right, let's look at this one and see if it's a function. Go ahead and make a list of coordinates. So what's this coordinate? 0, comma?
2.
What's the, oh, we have another 0, don't we? 0, comma what?
3.
Okay, now what? 5, comma 4, and 10, comma 5. So again, I only look at the x's. Do any x's repeat themselves?
Yes.
So is this one a function? No. Again, if I wanted to do this without like putting them out there, I would cover this side because that's the output, the y column, and I would say, does 0 have 2 lines coming out of it? Yes, so that means it repeats itself, therefore it's not a function. We don't care about the y's. We only care about the x's. They cannot repeat. Any questions so far? Are y'all good with identifying a function? Yes? Okay. Now I'm going to give you a function. This is, I'm just going to give you a table. You're going to tell me what's the domain, what's the range, and is it a function? Are y'all ready? All right. What is the domain? How do you know? Okay, go back up to your vocabulary. What does domain mean? What else? What else? The x's, right? So if I said, hey, what's the domain of this table? You're going to tell me 4 numbers. What are they? 3, 6, 9, and 12. So you're just telling me what is listed on that table as the domain, which is just the x's. Okay, now you're going to tell me the range, which is the y's. Yes? So what's the y's?
1, 2, 1.
Good. Is this table a function?
Yes.
But these repeat. But I don't care about them, right? Because they're y's. So I only care about the domain. I cover this up because I don't want to confuse myself. And these numbers do not repeat. So yes, it's a function because the x's do not repeat. We do not care about the y's. Okay, flip to the back. This wants us to make a function rule, so it's telling us this is a function. And you can look 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't repeat. It's a function, yes? They want us to come up with a rule and then identify the domain and range. So to come up with a rule, you ask yourself, how am I getting from x to y every single time? So how do you think they got from 0 to 3? They added 3. Now, if it's a rule, it will work across the table, right? How did they get from 1 to 4? Plus 3. From 2 to 5. So is it happening every single time? So the rule is plus 3. Now we're going to write an equation that shows that rule. So an equation will always say y equals, because that y is dependent on what happens over here. Yes? So in order to get y, we took what? Any x, and what did we do to that x? We plussed 3. Easy? All right, go list the domain of this table. What's the domain? The x's. So you're only just listing the x's. Go list the range of this table. So what am I listing now? The y's. Now, on the next one, they did it backwards. This time, they gave you the domain, they gave you the rule, they gave you the equation, and they want you to fill out the table. So where do you think I should start? Yeah, they gave me the domains, right? They gave me the x's. So I'm going to go list 0, 2, 5, 7, and 8. Now they gave me the rule. They said to get from x to y, they want me to do what? Multiply by 2. So I just go do it all the way across. What is 0 times 2?
0.
2 times 2?
4.
5 times 2? 7 times 2? And 8 times 2. Okay, I want you to try the next one on your own, and then just look up at the board to check it with mine. What did y'all see weird right away? Yeah, the domain's not listed in order, correct? Does it matter though? As long as you use the correct rule, you're okay. Easy? All right, here's our word problem. Concert tickets cost $15 each. You buy up to 6 tickets. Identify the independent variable and the dependent variable. All right, let me give y'all a big hint. Dependent is always the money. Money is always dependent on how much you buy, right? So what do y'all think the independent variable is? The tickets, the number of tickets. And y'all are going to see me use this little sign for number. It's not a hashtag. Okay, it's an abbreviation for number. So what is the dependent variable?
Money.
The cost, the money. So I'm going to put a money sign. Identify the domain. Now read this thing really carefully. First of all, what is the domain? Independent or dependent?
Independent.
Okay, so it has to be this right here, yes? Domain has to be this. Now, read this part to yourself. Identify the domain. What do you think I should write? 1 through 6, yes? Could it be 0?
No. Oh, yeah.
Why not? Do I have to buy a ticket? No. You buy up to 6 tickets. Does it say I buy more than 0? So can I buy 0? So I can buy 0. I can buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 tickets. Identify the range. How am I going to figure this out? I'm going to take each of these domains and multiply by 15, right? If I buy 0 tickets, I spend?
0.
All right, if I buy 1 ticket? If I buy 2? Okay, 3? 4? 5? And 6. 6? 90. What would the rule be? Plus 15? Times 15. Yes, times 15. So you can write 15x, or you could write like times 15. This is the way it should be written in algebra, but when you're asking for a rule, technically speaking, either one would be correct. But when you write the equation, it must be written as an algebra equation, okay? So the equation would be y equals what? 15x. And now it just wants you to complete the table, but we've already kind of done that, right? Because we listed the domain and we listed the range. So you kind of just have to go say, well, these are my X's, these are my Y's, and you can even label the Y's are money, this is number of tickets, and then I kind of just write out what I already did. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so on the front page, your answer will be yes or no. So you're just going to say yes, it's a function, or no, it's not. So again, I would cover up the output column like this, and I would say, is there anything with 2 lines? Because that would mean it's repeating. So is this a function? Yes. I want to say there was one that confused people last year, and it was number 6. Do y'all see how 0's listed, but there's no output? The rule of functions is for every input, there must be 1 output. So that'll help you answer that one, okay? All right, turn to the back. On this side, again, you're just going to say, yes, it's a function, or no, it's not. What are we only going to look at? So take that hand and cover up that right side, and all you're looking for is that the x's do not repeat. So is this a function? Yes. Okay, turn to the last page. At the top, I'm going to give you a word bank so you know, but I'm looking for either independent or dependent as the answer. Make sense? Okay. On 3 through 5, it wants you to tell if it's a function, so your answer will be yes or no. Are y'all okay? Y'all better listen to directions. Okay, on 6 through 8, it says make a what? So what is your job? To make a? So for 6, I would put it right over here. I'd make my table. Did they give you a domain? So you better list 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here is your equation to get your answer. So it says to get to y, you're going to take the x and multiply by, and then subtract 2. So 4 times 1 is, and then minus 2 is 2. You can use your calculator too. Okay? 2 times 4 is, minus 2 is, 3 times 4 is 12, and subtract 2 is, and 4 times 4 is, and subtract 2. Okay, now number 7, you might want to use your calculator because you're multiplying by a decimal. Yes, so you'll come over here, you'll make your table. It tells you your domain is what? 10, 20, 30, and 40. And if I was you, I would probably use my calculator. So I'll just do the first one with you with 10. I would get my calculator, and I would say 10 times 0.1 plus 3. And you can put it in all at the same time because your calculator does know order of operations. And the answer is 4. So when we grade this on Monday, each of these will be worth their own question. So don't forget any of it, okay? All right, number 9 and 10 says write a rule. Does it say write an equation? No. So you don't have to put the y equals. If you do, I would still count it right because we could see the rule. So So just do that. And then 11 through 13, you need to make sure that you read each part of the question.